Hi everyone, David MacDonald here from Vitality Fitness Calgary. Today we're going to go over the 6 workout mistakes that you might be making at home. So the 6 workout mistakes, I'm just going to grab my marker here. We're going to go over what you want to do instead of making these workout mistakes. So these are the 6 workout mistakes that you're probably making at home and that a lot of gym goers definitely make. So anytime I've been in a gym, I always see all 6 of these mistakes happening at one point or another. So we're going to explain why these are things you don't want to be doing and what you can do instead next time you go and work out, whether it's on your own, whether you're at the gym or anything like that. So first thing is not enough weight training. All right, so as you guys know from watching our videos, weight training is very important. Okay, it's very important for building and maintaining strength. It's important for maintaining and increasing your metabolism. As you age, you do lose muscle mass. So for every decade that goes by, you will lose 10% of the muscle mass that you have, which effectively lowers your metabolism. So if you want to continue losing weight, you want to be able to maintain your current weight, then building and maintaining as much muscle as you have is going to be very important as you age. So that's why you've got to have weight training in your program. Minimum 3 times a week, you've got to be lifting weights. Okay? For the metabolism benefits alone, weight training needs to be a staple in your workouts. So that's one thing I see a lot at the gym. A lot of people not lifting enough weight. Okay, not doing enough weight training and spending way too much time on the treadmill, on the cross trainer, doing too much cardio, doing hours of cardio when it's not necessary and it's actually not that effective. That's number 1. Okay, number 2 is for those people who actually do weight train, one of the mistakes that we typically see is they don't do enough posterior work. Okay, so they do what are called the mirror muscles. You know, they work the chest, the abs, the biceps, the legs, the calves. So they work the muscles that they can see and don't necessarily put enough time into working the muscles they can't see, which are equally, if not more important than the muscles on the front. So when we say posterior work, we're referring to muscles like the hamstrings, the glutes, the rhomboids, the lower and the mid trap, even the lats. And the reason why you want to be working in these areas is because they are underworked and they're underdeveloped for most people. If you look at the lifestyle that we in Canada and North America live, it's very sedentary. It's very much, sitting down at a desk, for 8 to 10 hours at a time. When you do those activities, what you are going to be doing is you're going to be shortening the chest, shortening the shoulders, shortening the hip flexors, and you're going to be deactivating the glutes, the hamstrings, and the back. Okay, so that's going to lead to poor posture, and that's also going to lead to injuries down the road if you compound that by doing a lot of front muscle work at the gym. So doing a lot of bench press, chest press, leg extensions, leg presses, and neglecting the backside or the posterior work. So you got to make sure you're adding in things like deadlifts, hamstring curls, doing row work. So you're doing maybe a TRX row, you're doing dumbbell rows, you're doing lat pull downs, you're doing some rear delt flies. So you're getting that backside worked out. So you're offsetting a lot of those imbalances that are created from your day-to-day job. So you got to do posterior work. Okay, the other thing that we see as a common workout mistake is too many machines. So that's not to say that there isn't a place and time for machines. There are certain populations that can really benefit from machine work. Those who are elderly, if you're elderly and you haven't worked out, or you're elderly and as you age, you have less and less strength and you need more things to accommodate you when you're working out. Machines can be a great tool for people who are elderly. The other population are people who are really obese. So if you are carrying a lot of extra weight, say 100 or 200 extra pounds, doing body weight or free weight exercises might be too much. So you might be better off working through a fixed range of motion until you lose some extra pounds and until your body develops more strength to take on those more advanced movements in the body weight and free weight category. So machine work is okay for certain populations, but for most people it's not effective. The reason it's not effective is because machines don't work your stabilizing muscles, they don't promote coordination, they don't increase strength as much as free weights and body weight. Okay, you're not going to get a lot of core strength benefits working on a machine because most machines have back supports or back rests. So you're not going to get that true core strength development that you would from a free weight or body weight exercise. You're going to work less muscle groups at once. You're going to be working less muscle fibers at once. So from a effectiveness and an efficiency standpoint, your workouts are not going to be as good. So too many machines, something we see a lot of at the gym. You're better off sticking with dumbbell, barbell, body weight work, using a TRX strap when you're doing any kind of weight training at the gym. Okay, the next thing we see, and it's actually a big deficit that we see with a lot of our members when they come in and start with us, is they lack a lot of core strength. Okay, core strength and stability is very much under prioritized in most workouts. You have to build that core strength if you want to advance and make progress and really improve your health. You can look at the core as the foundation of a house. So when we're referring to a core, we're referring to the muscles of the torso. So we have the abdominals, so that's your rectus and your transverse abdominals, your internal and external obliques. You have your lower back, okay, so your erector spinae muscles. So there's a lot of muscles that are involved with the core that you need to be working on a regular basis. You could also throw in your hip muscles as additional core muscles like your glutes. So you have to be doing things that are strengthening that core. If the foundation of your house isn't strong, when we go up to that second and third floor, the building is going to start to have issues. Okay, much like if you don't develop that core strength, if you try to advance on certain movements, you are going to stagnate and you are going to have limited progress, and you are going to actually compensate with muscles of the lower back, and that could create injury down the road. So in order to prevent all of that, you got to do adequate core work. So we're referring to planking, side planking, V-sits, dead bugs, things that really emphasize and develop strength through that region. So that's another mistake we see, not enough core work. Okay, and when I say not enough core work, I should also include not enough effective core work. So we're not talking about crunches or sit-ups or doing an ab machine where you have a back support and you're, sitting and curling a bunch of weight with a machine. We're referring to real effective core work that gets you real world results. Okay, so not enough core work, not enough effective core work is number 4. The next thing we see is poor technique and too much weight. So the reason we put these two together is because they go hand in hand. More often than not, if someone has poor technique with an exercise, it's because they're lifting too much weight. Okay, there are the odd exceptions where we do see people lifting with poor technique, and a lot of that is because they just haven't been coached and shown how to improve and enhance their technique. Okay, so there are those odd exceptions where the actual weight that they're lifting is fine. It's just the coordination and the coaching hasn't been provided to them. So whenever you're lifting, technique always comes first. Proper form is much better than lifting a lot of weight. It's better to lift less weight and have great technique than to lift a ton of weight and have sloppy technique and get injured down the road. Okay, and like I said, too much weight is almost always a cause of poor technique. So especially for you guys out there, because you guys are the more guilty party of lifting too much weight. You'd actually benefit more by scaling back 10 to 15 pounds, really focusing on contracting and engaging the muscle, and focusing on the movement and the muscle first, and then the weight second. Okay, make the weight the secondary priority, the actual movement and working the muscle your primary focus. Okay, and then the last workout mistake that we see is doing weight training after cardio. So I see a lot of people in the female population doing this, where they go on the treadmill for maybe a half hour to 40 minutes. Maybe they do a run, or they do a session on the cross trainer or the elliptical or on the bike. Do that for 40 minutes and they get into their weights. You actually want to flip that around and do your weight training first, and then if you are doing cardio on the same day, doing cardio second. Multiple reasons why. Number 1, if your goals are toning inches, losing weight, developing strength, developing muscle tone, you want to prioritize weight training in your workout. So you want to have weight training first, okay? If you're lifting weights first, okay, you're not going to be lifting in a fatigue state. So form isn't going to be an issue. okay? You're gonna be able to maximize the amount of weight that you lift. You're gonna be able to maximize the isolation and the contraction within the muscle. And you're gonna have more of an effective workout with your weight training if you do it first than if you do it after the cardio when you're in a fatigue state. Okay, the second thing to keep in mind is when you do weight training second, okay, you've already used up your main fuel source. So your main fuel source, whenever you start working out, is always gonna be carbohydrates. Your body's gonna tap into carbohydrates first. It'll start to tap into fat eventually, depending on the activity and the intensity, but it always taps into carbohydrates first. So when you're doing cardio, you're gonna be utilizing your carbohydrates first, and then when you go to weight training, your body has to get fuel or get energy from something. When you weight train, there's gonna be two areas that you gain fuel from, either your carbohydrates or protein stores. So protein stores are also known as muscle tissue. So you want to do your weight training first, so you use your carbohydrates, okay, and you're not using your protein stores by doing weight training second. Okay, so if we do our cardio first, we're going to be depleting our carbohydrates, and then we're going to have to rely on protein as fuel to do our weight training. So we're effectively going to be burning muscle tissue during our weight training. Okay. However, if we went the other way where we did weight training first, okay, we utilized our carbohydrates and then we followed up with some cardio, preferably something of the lighter variation, then we're going to be utilizing body fat as fuel. So when you're doing cardio, your body is usually going to rely on two fuel sources. It's going to rely on carbohydrates or it's going to rely on body fat. So if the carbohydrates have been used up already, okay, from prior activity, and you're doing cardio now, well, your body has nothing left to use but body fat. So the types of energy and fuel sources your body is using for weight training and cardio can change, or is going to be different, and is going to change depending on where you prioritize those things in your workout. So it's another reason why you want to have weight training first, cardio second, so you're burning the correct fuel source. You never want to burn muscle tissue as fuel. That's the last thing you want to burn, because as you know, muscle tissue increases and enhances metabolism. So you never want to get rid of muscle tissue. So these are the 6 mistakes we see, okay, for working out. Just to recap, you want to add in 3 times a week of weight training. You want to be working the full body. You want to be focusing on doing posterior work, as well as working the front of the body, but you want to put a real emphasis on posterior work. Working the hamstrings, the back, the glutes, things like that. You also want to make sure you're not using too many machines. Okay, depending on your fitness level and where you're at, you may need to incorporate some machine work, but you want to focus on body weight, free weight, TRX style training. Okay, the next thing is not enough core work. Okay, so you want to make core work a priority. You want to work the abs, the obliques, the lower back. Okay, you want to develop strength in those areas by doing plank work, side planks, dead bugs, V-sits, things like that. Okay, you also want to make sure that you are lifting with really good technique. Okay, so you're not lifting with sloppy technique, which is almost always correlated with lifting too much weight. So lift the appropriate amount of weight for your strength and fitness level. Focus on the muscle and the movement first and the weight second. And lastly, we want to make sure if we are combining weight training and cardio in the same workout, weight training comes first, so we can burn off our carbohydrates, and then we can use fat stores to fuel our cardio session. If we go the other way around, we're going to be using carbohydrates for the cardio session and protein stores to fuel the muscle, or to fuel the weight training session. So we want to make sure we're doing weight training first, cardio second. The other reason why is because if we start fresh and we start not in a fatigue state, then we're going to get more benefits and more gains from our weight training workout, and we're going to be able to hold really good technique compared to if we did it in a fatigue state after a cardio session. So those are the reasons why weight training comes first, cardio comes after, if you're combining them in the same workout. So those are the 6 workout mistakes we see at the gym and we see in general. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next day.